Number 1. It happened in the morning, under clear skies, in cities that thought the war was ending. August 6 and the 9th of August 1945. Two American B-29 bombers dropped two atomic bombs on Japan, killing over 200,000 people and introducing humanity to weapons that could destroy civilization itself. Number 2. The Manhattan Project, the secret program to build the atomic bomb, began in 1942. It employed 130,000 people across 30 sites in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. It cost $2 billion, equivalent to $30 billion today. Most workers had no idea what they were building. Number 3. The project was led by physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer at Los Alamos, New Mexico. Scientists working on the bomb included Albert Einstein, Enrico Fermi, Niels Bohr, and Richard Feynman. Many were refugees from Nazi Germany who feared Hitler would build the bomb first. Number 4. The first atomic bomb was tested on the 16th of July 1945 at the Trinity site in New Mexico. The explosion created a fireball reaching 7,000 feet in diameter and left a crater of radioactive glass in the desert sand. Oppenheimer later recalled a line from Hindu scripture, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Number 5. The Trinity Test produced a yield of 22 kilotons, equivalent to 22,000 tons of TNT. The flash was visible 200 miles away. Windows broke 120 miles from the blast. The mushroom cloud reached 7.5 miles into the sky. Number 6. By July 1945, Japan was already devastated. American firebombing had destroyed 67 Japanese cities. The March 9–10 Tokyo firebombing killed over 100,000 civilians in a single night. Japan's navy was sunk, its air force decimated, and its supply lines cut. But Japan had not surrendered. Number 7. The Japanese military code of Bushido emphasized fighting to the death over surrender. Japanese soldiers on Pacific Islands fought to the last man. Civilians on Saipan jumped from cliffs rather than surrender to Americans. U.S. military planners expected an invasion of mainland Japan to cost 1 million American casualties. Number 8. President Harry S. Truman assumed office on the 12th of April 1945 after Franklin Roosevelt's death. He knew nothing about the Manhattan Project until he became president. Secretary of War Henry Stimson briefed him on April 25. Truman was told the bomb would be ready by August. Number 9. At the Potsdam Conference in July 1945, Allied leaders issued the Potsdam Declaration demanding Japan's unconditional surrender. The declaration warned of prompt and utter destruction if Japan refused. It did not mention the atomic bomb. Japan rejected the ultimatum on July 28. Number 10. 4 cities were selected as potential targets: Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata and Nagasaki. The criteria were specific. Cities with military or industrial significance that had not been heavily bombed, so the bomb's destructive power could be accurately measured. Number 11. Hiroshima was chosen as the primary target. It was home to the Second Army headquarters, which commanded the defense of southern Japan. The city also housed major military supply depots and was a communications hub. The population was approximately 350,000. Number 12. Kyoto was initially the top target due to its industrial capacity and intellectual significance. Secretary of War Stimson personally removed it from the list. He had honeymooned in Kyoto and argued that destroying Japan's cultural and religious center would turn the Japanese against America forever. Nagasaki was added as a replacement. Number 13. The Enola Gay, a B-29 Superfortress bomber, was chosen to deliver the first bomb. It was named after pilot Colonel Paul Tibbetts' mother. The plane was modified to carry the 9,700-pound uranium bomb codenamed Little Boy. Number 14. Little Boy was 10 feet long and 28 inches in diameter. It used a gun-type design. One piece of uranium-235 was fired at another to create a critical mass and trigger a nuclear chain reaction. It had never been tested before Hiroshima. Scientists were confident enough in the design that they didn't need a test. Number 15. On the night of the 5th of August 1945, the Enola Gay took off from Tinian Island in the Mariana Islands at 2:45 a.m. The flight to Hiroshima took 6 hours. Two observation planes, the Great Artiste and Necessary Evil, accompanied it to photograph and measure the blast. Number 16. At 7:09 a.m. on August 6, a Japanese early warning radar detected aircraft approaching. An air raid alert was issued. At 7:31 a.m., the alert was lifted when only 3 planes were spotted, too few for a conventional bombing raid. People went back to work. Number 17. At 8:15 and 17 seconds a.m. local time, Little Boy was released from 31,000 feet above Hiroshima. It fell for 43 seconds. Tibbets immediately banked the Enola Gay into a sharp 155-degree turn to escape the blast. The crew put on welding goggles. Number 18. The bomb detonated 1,968 feet above the Shima Surgical Clinic, near the center of the city. The explosion released energy equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. The fireball reached 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the surface of the Sunday number 19. Everything within a half-mile radius of the hypocenter was instantly vaporized. Buildings, trees, vehicles and human beings ceased to exist. People within 1,000 feet were incinerated, leaving behind only their shadows burned into concrete walls and pavements. Those shadows remain visible today. Number 20. Akiko Takakura was 20 years old, working at the Hiroshima Bank 300 meters from the hypocenter. She was badly burned but survived. Everyone else in her building died. She spent the rest of her life campaigning for nuclear disarmament. She died in 2023 at age 98. Number 21. The blast wave traveled outward at 980 miles per hour. It flattened everything within a 1-mile radius. Wooden buildings were smashed into splinters. Concrete structures crumbled. The blast hurled people through the air like leaves. Many died from blunt force trauma before the heat, and radiation could kill them. Number 22. A flash of light brighter than 1,000 suns illuminated the sky. People 10 miles away were temporarily blinded. Those who looked directly at the fireball suffered permanent retinal damage. The light was visible from 250 miles away. Number 23. Thermal radiation from the explosion ignited fires across the city. Within minutes, Hiroshima was burning. A firestorm developed, with winds reaching 60 miles per hour pulling oxygen toward the flames. People who survived the initial blast were burned alive in the firestorm that followed. Number 24. Dr. Terufumi Sasaki was working at the Red Cross Hospital when the bomb fell. He was one of the few uninjured doctors in the city. For 3 days he treated thousands of victims without sleep, food or supplies. He amputated limbs with kitchen knives and used shredded bedsheets as bandages. He survived and practiced medicine until his death in 2005 at age 96. Number 25. The mushroom cloud rose 40,000 feet into the atmosphere. Pilots on the Enola Gay saw it from 360 miles away. Tail gunner Bob Caron described it as a peep into hell. Tibbets recorded in his log. Results clear-cut, successful in all respects. Number 26. Black rain began falling 20 minutes after the explosion. The rain was full of radioactive particles, soot and debris sucked up by the mushroom cloud. People drank it because they were thirsty. Others stood in it to cool their burns. The rain poisoned them. Many who survived the blast died weeks later from radiation sickness caused by the rain. Number 27. Approximately 70,000 people died instantly in Hiroshima. Another 70,000 died by the end of 1,945 from burns, injuries and radiation sickness. By 1950, the death toll had reached 200,000. The bomb killed 30% of Hiroshima's population. Number 28. Survivors, called hibakusha, suffered burns, lacerations and radiation exposure. Many were left with keloid scars, thick, raised scar tissue from burns. The scars were disfiguring and painful. Hibakusha faced social discrimination for decades, with many unable to marry or find work because of their scars and fear of radiation contamination. Number 29. Radiation sickness symptoms appeared within hours for those heavily exposed. Victims experienced nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and hair loss. Their gums bled, purple spots appeared on their skin. They died days or weeks later as their internal organs failed. Doctors had no idea how to treat them. Number 30. Eizo Nomura was 1.3 miles from the hypocenter. He survived with severe burns over 90% of his body. He spent 2 years in hospitals and endured 65 surgeries. He dedicated his life to peace activism and showed his scars to schoolchildren to teach them about nuclear weapons. He died in 2020 at age 93. Number 31. The Japanese government initially had no idea what had happened. Reports from Hiroshima were confused and contradictory. Communication lines were destroyed. By August 7, reconnaissance planes confirmed that Hiroshima had been obliterated by a single bomb. The military refused to believe it. Number 32. On August 8, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and invaded Manchuria. Over 1.5 million Soviet troops attacked Japanese positions. This was arguably as significant to Japan's surrender as the atomic bombs. Japan's leadership had hoped the Soviet Union would mediate a negotiated peace. That hope was now gone. Number 33. President Truman issued a statement on August 7 warning Japan. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth. Japan's government remained divided. The military wanted to continue fighting. Civilian leaders wanted to surrender. Number 34. The second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man, was a plutonium implosion device. It was 10 feet 8 inches long, 60 inches in diameter, and weighed 10,300 pounds. Unlike Little Boy, Fat Man's design had been tested at Trinity. It was more complex but more efficient. Number 35. The original target for the second bomb was Kokura, an industrial city with a major arsenal. On August 9, the B-29 boxcar, piloted by Major Charles Sweeney, took off from Tinian at 3:49 a.m. The mission was cursed from the start. A fuel pump malfunctioned, leaving one fuel tank inaccessible. They would have barely enough fuel to return. Number 36. Boxcar arrived over Kokura at 10:44 a.m. The city was obscured by clouds and smoke from firebombing of nearby Yahata the day before. Sweeney made 3 bombing runs but couldn't achieve visual confirmation of the target. Anti-aircraft fire began. Japanese fighters scrambled. Sweeney broke off and headed for the secondary target, Nagasaki. Number 37. Nagasaki was also clouded over. Sweeney had fuel for only one pass. Bombardier Kermit Beerhan spotted a gap in the clouds at the last moment. At 11:02 a.m., Fat Man was released from 28,900 feet. It detonated 1,650 feet above the Urakami Valley. Number 38. Fat Man produced a yield of 21 kilotons, 40% more powerful than Little Boy. But Nagasaki's hilly terrain limited the blast's spread. The bomb detonated over the industrial valley rather than the city centre. The hills absorbed much of the blast and thermal radiation. This geographic accident saved thousands of lives. Number 39. The Mitsubishi Steel and Arms Works, a major weapons factory, was obliterated. So was the Mitsubishi Urakami Torpedo Works. The Urakami Cathedral, the largest Catholic church in Asia, was destroyed. The cathedral was 500 meters from the hypocenter. 34 worshippers inside were vaporized. Number 40. Approximately 40,000 people died instantly in Nagasaki. Another 30,000 died by the end of 1945. The final death toll by 1950 reached approximately 80,000, significantly lower than Hiroshima due to the terrain and the bomb missing its intended aim point. Number 41. Sumiteru Taniguchi was 16 years old, delivering mail on his bicycle 1.8 kilometers from the hypocenter. The blast burned his back so severely that his skin hung in sheets. He spent 21 months hospitalized, lying on his stomach because he couldn't lie on his back. He survived and became one of the most vocal hibakusha activists. He died in 2017 at age 88. Number 42. Dr. Takashi Nagai was working at Nagasaki Medical College when the bomb fell. He suffered a severed artery but treated injured patients for days before collapsing. His wife was killed in their home 700 meters from the hypocenter. He found her remains and a rosary in the ashes. He died of leukemia caused by radiation exposure in 1951 at age 43. Number 43. Boxcar barely made it back. The plane landed at Okinawa with only enough fuel for one more minute of flight. Sweeney's crew was certain they would crash into the ocean. They survived. Many of them later said they wished the mission had never happened. Number 44. Emperor Hirohito addressed Japan's Supreme War Council on August 9, hours after Nagasaki. The council was deadlocked. Half wanted to surrender. Half wanted to fight to the death, even if it meant Japan's total destruction. Hirohito broke the tie. He decided Japan would surrender. Number 45. On the 15th of August 1945, Hirohito's voice was broadcast on Japanese radio for the first time in history. His announcement, recorded the night before, informed the nation that Japan would surrender. He cited a new and most cruel bomb as one reason. Most Japanese citizens had never heard their emperor speak. Some didn't understand his formal, archaic language. Number 46. The surrender was not unanimous. A group of army officers attempted a coup on August 14 to 15 to prevent the surrender broadcast. They stormed the imperial palace, searching for the recording of Hirohito's speech. They failed to find it. The coup collapsed. Some of the officers committed suicide. Number 47. Japan formally surrendered on the 2nd of September 1945 aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. General Douglas MacArthur accepted the surrender. World War II officially ended. The war had killed an estimated 75 million people worldwide. Number 48. The decision to use the atomic bombs remains one of the most debated events in history. Truman defended it for the rest of his life, claiming it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives that would have been lost in an invasion. Critics argue Japan was already on the verge of surrender and the bombs were unnecessary. Number 49. Some historians argue the bombs were dropped primarily to intimidate the Soviet Union and establish American dominance in the post-war world. The targeting of cities with large civilian populations, rather than purely military targets, supports this interpretation. Others maintain the primary motive was to end the war quickly. Number 50. 7 of the 8 five-star American generals and admirals in 1945 later stated that the atomic bombs were either militarily unnecessary, morally wrong, or both. This includes Dwight Eisenhower, Douglas MacArthur, and Admiral William Leahy. All of them expressed these views only after the war ended. Number 51. Leahy, Truman's chief of staff, wrote in his memoir, "The use of this barbarous weapon at Hiroshima and Nagasaki was of no material assistance in our war against Japan. The Japanese were already defeated and ready to surrender." Truman publicly dismissed these objections. Number 50. 2. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey, conducted after the war, concluded, "Certainly prior to the 31st of December 1945, and in all probability prior to the 1st of November 1945, Japan would have surrendered even if the atomic bombs had not been dropped." The report was largely ignored in American public discourse. Number 53. The immediate aftermath in both cities was chaos. Survivors wandered through ruins searching for family members. Bodies were everywhere. The smell of burning flesh filled the air for days. Water supplies were contaminated. Hospitals were destroyed. There was no organized relief for weeks. Number 54. Coco Kondo was 8 months old when the bomb fell on Hiroshima. She was 600 meters from the hypocenter, inside her home. Her father, a Methodist minister, found her alive in the rubble. She became a peace activist and later met Captain Robert Lewis, co-pilot of the Enola Gay. They became friends and spoke together about peace. She continues her work today. Number 55. Hibakusha was socially stigmatized in Japan for decades. Many hid their status. Women feared they couldn't marry because of concerns about birth defects and genetic damage. Some lost jobs when employers discovered their exposure. The stigma was so severe that some hibakusha emigrated to avoid it. Number 56. Birth defects and cancer rates among hibakusha increased significantly. Leukemia rates peaked 5 to 7 years after exposure. Other cancers appeared 10 to 15 years later. Children exposed in utero had higher rates of intellectual disabilities and growth problems. Studies of hibakusha and their descendants continue today. Number 57. The Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission, later renamed the Radiation Effects Research Foundation, has studied hibakusha since 1947. Over 120,000 survivors and their children have participated in long-term health studies. The data has shaped radiation safety standards worldwide. Number 58. Approximately 12 American POWs were killed in Hiroshima. They were held in a police station near the hypocenter. Their existence was covered up by both American and Japanese governments for decades. Families were told they died in air raids. The truth wasn't confirmed until the 1972nd. Number 59. Korean forced laborers made up approximately 10% of Hiroshima's population when the bomb fell. Around 20,000 Koreans died in Hiroshima. Another 2,000 died in Nagasaki. Surviving Korean hibakusha received no support from Japan or the United States. Many returned to Korea, where they faced additional discrimination. It took decades for them to receive official recognition. Number 60. The Hiroshima Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall, 160 meters from the hypocenter, partially survived. Its skeletal dome remained standing. Now called the Atomic Bomb Dome or Genbaku Dome, it was preserved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It remains the most iconic symbol of the bombing. Number 61. The cenotaph for the A-bomb victims in Hiroshima contains the names of all known victims. The list is updated annually as more victims are identified or as hibakusha die from bomb-related illnesses. As of 2024, over 330,000 names are inscribed. Number 62. The Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum opened in 1955. It displays artifacts from the bombing. Watches stopped at 8:15, burned clothing, melted bottles, photographs of victims and testimonies from survivors. Over 50 million people have visited. The exhibits are graphic and deeply disturbing. They are meant to be. Number 63. The Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum opened in 1996. It includes similar artifacts and survivor testimonies. One of the most haunting exhibits is a water bottle carried by a 9-year-old girl who died of radiation sickness. Her mother carried it for 33 years before donating it to the museum. Number 64. Every year on August 6 and 9, memorial ceremonies are held in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At 8:15 a.m. in Hiroshima and 11:02 a.m. in Nagasaki, bells ring and attendees observe a moment of silence. Doves are released. The Prime Minister of Japan and the mayors of both cities deliver speeches calling for nuclear disarmament. Number 65. The mayors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki send letters of protest to world leaders every time a nation conducts a nuclear weapons test. As of 2024, Hiroshima has sent over 700 such letters. Most receive no response. Number 66. Sadako Sasaki was 2 years old when the bomb fell on Hiroshima. She seemed healthy and grew into an athletic young girl. At age 11, she developed leukemia. According to Japanese tradition, folding 1,000 paper cranes grants a wish. Sadako folded cranes while in the Japanese tradition, hospital, wishing for recovery. She died at age 12 inches 1,955, having folded over 1,400 cranes. Number 67. Sadako's story inspired a global movement. Children worldwide fold paper cranes and send them to Hiroshima. The Children's Peace Monument in Hiroshima, featuring a statue of Sadako holding a golden crane, receives millions of paper cranes annually. The cranes are displayed, then recycled into new paper, continuing the cycle. Number 68. The bombings accelerated the nuclear arms race. The Soviet Union detonated its first atomic bomb in 1949, years earlier than American intelligence predicted. Britain followed in 1952, France in 1960, China in 1964. The Cold War nuclear standoff defined global politics for 45 years. Number 69. At the peak of the Cold War in 1986, the global nuclear arsenal contained approximately 70,000 warheads. The combined explosive power exceeded 1.5 million times the Hiroshima bomb, enough to destroy human civilization multiple times over. Number 70. The hydrogen bomb, developed in 1952, was 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The largest ever detonated, the Soviet Tsar bomber in 1961, had a yield of 50 megatons, 3,300 times more powerful than Little Boy. The mushroom cloud reached 40 miles high. Number 71. Nuclear testing continued for decades. The United States conducted 1,054 tests between 1,945 and 1,992. The Soviet Union conducted 715. Atmospheric tests spread radioactive fallout globally. Cancer rates increased. Civilians downwind of test sites suffered radiation exposure. In 1963, the Limited Test Ban Treaty moved tests underground. Number 72. 9 nations currently possess nuclear weapons. The United States, Russia, United Kingdom, France, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel, unconfirmed but widely believed. The global stockpile is approximately 12,500 warheads as of 2024. Russia and the United States possess over 90% of them. Number 73. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, signed in 1968, has been signed by 191 countries. It aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and achieve nuclear disarmament. Despite the treaty, nuclear arsenals remain large enough to destroy civilization. Complete disarmament remains a distant goal. Number 74. Several nuclear close calls have nearly triggered World War III. In 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Soviet submarine officer Vasily Arkhipov refused to authorize a nuclear torpedo launch against U.S. warships. His decision likely prevented nuclear war. In 1983, Soviet officer Stanislav Petrov correctly identified a false alarm of an American nuclear launch. Both men saved millions of lives by not following protocol. Number 75. Hibakusha became powerful voices for nuclear disarmament. Despite their suffering and stigma, many survivors dedicated their lives to peace activism. They traveled the world, shared their stories, and advocated for the abolition of nuclear weapons. Their testimony influenced international efforts toward disarmament. Number 76. In 2009, President Barack Obama visited Hiroshima and became the first sitting U.S. president to do so. He met with hibakusha and delivered a speech calling for a world without nuclear weapons. He did not apologize for the bombing. Japanese officials did not request one. Number 77. In 2017, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, won the Nobel Peace Prize. The organization, supported by hibakusha testimony, successfully advocated for the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, adopted by 122 nations in 2017. None of the 9 nuclear-armed states have signed it. Number 78. As of 2024, the average age of surviving hibakusha is over 85 years old. Fewer than 100,000 remain. Their testimonies are being recorded and preserved. Virtual reality recreations of their experiences have been created to educate future generations. Within a decade, there may be no living witnesses to the bombings. Number 79. The firebombing of Tokyo and other Japanese cities killed more people than the atomic bombs. The March 9 to 10, 1000, 945. Tokyo raid alone killed over 100,000. Yet the atomic bombs receive far more attention. The difference is the weapon itself. One bomb, one plane, one moment, total destruction. Number 80. The psychological impact of nuclear weapons is unique. Conventional weapons, no matter how destructive, can be defended against or survived. Nuclear weapons create total annihilation zones where survival is impossible. This absolute nature changed how humanity thinks about war, deterrence, and extinction. Number 81. Japanese survivors and scientists studied the long-term effects of radiation exposure. Their research advanced medical understanding of radiation sickness, cancer development, and genetic damage. The suffering of hibakusha contributed to global radiation safety standards and cancer treatment protocols. Number 82. Some hibakusha struggled with survivors' guilt. They asked, "Why did I live when so many others died?" Some felt they should have done more to save others. Others felt guilty for being relieved their own family survived. Psychological trauma affected survivors for life, often undiagnosed and untreated. Number 83. Artistic responses to Hiroshima and Nagasaki include John Hersey's Hiroshima, published in The New Yorker in 1946, which told the stories of 6 survivors. The entire issue was devoted to the single article. It was the first time many Americans confronted the human cost of the bombs. Number 84. The Japanese manga Barefoot Gen by Keiji Nakazawa, himself a hibakusha, depicted the bombing through a child's eyes. Published from 1973 to 1985, it showed graphic scenes of suffering that shocked readers. It remains one of the most powerful artistic depictions of nuclear war. Number 85. The bombings transformed American culture. The atomic age entered language, architecture, and consumer products. Atomic became synonymous with powerful and modern. Atomic-themed toys, comics, and advertisements proliferated in the 1950 seconds. The trivializing of atomic weapons disturbed many veterans and scientists. Number 86. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientific director of the Manhattan Project, became conflicted about his creation. After the war, he opposed the development of the hydrogen bomb and advocated for international control of nuclear weapons. His security clearance was revoked in 1954 during the McCarthy era. He died in 1967, never fully reconciled with his legacy. Number 87. Paul Tibbets, pilot of the Enola Gay, never expressed regret. He maintained until his death in 2007 that the bombing was necessary and saved lives. He refused to apologize and requested no funeral or headstone to avoid protests. His ashes were scattered over the English Channel. Number 88. The crew members of the Enola Gay and Boxcar had varied reactions. Some defended the missions publicly, but privately suffered guilt and nightmares. Others became advocates for peace. Tail gunner Bob Caron collected his military pay, but donated it to charities for decades, never explaining why. Number 89. Theodore Van Kirk, navigator of the Enola Gay, stated in 2005, "I honestly believe the use of the atomic bomb saved lives in the long run. I sleep clearly every night." Others, like Bombardier Kermit Beahan of Boxcar, refused to discuss the mission for the rest of their lives. Number 90. The bombings raised profound ethical questions that remain unresolved. Is it justified to kill civilians to end a war? Does the number of lives potentially saved justify the weapon's use? Can military necessity override moral constraints? These questions have no definitive answers. Number 91. The Geneva Conventions were expanded after World War II to include protections for civilians. Deliberate targeting of civilian populations became a war crime. However, nuclear weapons, by their nature, cannot discriminate between combatants and civilians. The legal status of nuclear weapons remains ambiguous. Number 92. Modern Hiroshima has a population of 1.2 million. Modern Nagasaki has 420,000. Both cities were rebuilt and are thriving urban centers. Visitors often comment on how normal the cities feel. The past exists in museums and monuments, but daily life continues. Resilience is part of the city's identity. Number 93. Radiation levels in Hiroshima and Nagasaki returned to normal within months. The bombs detonated in the air, not on the ground, which limited long-term contamination. Both cities were resettled quickly. This is different from Chernobyl or Fukushima, where ground-level contamination created exclusion zones lasting decades. Number 94. The medical effects on hibakusha continued throughout their lives. Cancer rates remained elevated. Cataracts developed decades after exposure. Cardiovascular disease increased. Even psychological stress contributed to health problems. The bombs killed not just in August 1945, but for 80 years afterward. Number 95. Children of hibakusha were studied for genetic damage. Initial fears of widespread genetic mutations proved largely unfounded. Most children were born healthy. However, subtle increases in certain conditions have been documented. Research continues on potential multi-generational effects. Number 96. The concept of nuclear winter was developed in the 1980 seconds. Scientists calculated that a large-scale nuclear war would inject so much smoke and debris into the atmosphere that global temperatures would drop, crops would fail, and billions would starve. Even the winners of a nuclear war would face extinction. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction was based on this reality. Number 97. Nuclear weapons have not been used in war since Nagasaki. This 79-year period of non-use is sometimes called the long peace or the nuclear taboo. Whether this restraint is due to fear, morality, deterrence, or luck is debated. The taboo remains fragile. Number 98. The closest the world has come to nuclear war since 1945 was probably the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. For 13 days, the United States and Soviet Union stood at the brink. Kennedy estimated the odds of nuclear war at between 1 in 3 and even. The crisis was resolved through diplomacy and back-channel negotiations. Humanity was lucky. Number 99. Pope Francis visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 2019. He called the use of nuclear weapons immoral and stated that the possession of nuclear weapons is immoral. His statement was the Catholic Church's strongest condemnation of nuclear weapons to date. It was largely ignored by nuclear-armed states. Number 100. Every hibakusha interviewed expresses the same hope, that their suffering was not in vain, that humanity will learn from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that nuclear weapons will never be used again. They do not want revenge. They do not want pity. They want their testimony to prevent future use. Number 101. At 8:15 a.m. on the 6th of August 1945 and 11:02 a.m. on the 9th of August 1945, the world changed. 2 cities were destroyed. Over 200,000 people died. Survivors endured radiation sickness, burns, social stigma and trauma that lasted lifetimes. The weapons that ended World War II introduced the possibility of ending human civilization itself. The bombs fell 79 years ago, but their shadows remain, burned into stone, etched into memory, and hanging over every generation since as a warning of what humanity is capable of inflicting upon itself.